Scared and lost, Alto ran forward. Branches smacked him in the face. Bard was lost in the woods again. Looking around, he had no clue which way the cabin was. He slumped back against a tree with no hope. In the hours that passed, a musical tune picked at his ears, a stringed instrument the bard recognized. The tune was foreign, but called to him. If there was music, there were people. Someone was here. He followed the sound to a waterfall. Sitting on a stump was a beautiful woman. Her long, slender fingers strummed a biwa and gave forth a beautiful melody. The bard acknowledged her talent. He stepped forward, kicking a woodcutter's axe, laying in the dirt as he approached. Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide, Jason. Today we meet the Jorogumo, the Japanese spider woman. Let's see what we can learn about such a terrifying creature, and how to escape her web. Jorogumo is a yokai coming from Japan, often called the Entangling Bride, among other not so YouTube friendly names. She's born as a simple spider, usually a golden orb weaver spider, or a Joro spider. Trichonephilia clavata is the exact species where it comes from. When it reaches 400 years old, it will undergo a metamorphosis, where it gains magical powers. Usually, she'll live near a waterfall, in abandoned buildings. Overall, she prefers isolated areas. Her most notable power is shapeshifting. It has 3 forms it will take. The first is a giant spider. The second, a beautiful woman, with many tales speak of her playing an instrument called a biwa. And lastly, a creature in the middle of the other two, and the one I'm sure you are thinking of. There are numerous tales about her. There are 2 which stand out though. In one, a young samurai meets a beautiful woman in his travels. She asks him to come into her home. He is hesitant though, because he is married and wants to see his young wife. Due to the weather, the samurai is forced to stay though. During the night, the young woman makes her advances on him, but is rejected. She becomes more forceful, and the samurai draws his blade and injures her in self-defense. She flees into the attic. When the samurai goes to check on her, he finds a giant Joro spider, about 2 shakus in size. The second talks about a Jorogumo that lives near a waterfall. She makes attempts on men, with some success. One man falls asleep by the water, and awoke with a web on his feet, dragging him away. He pulled it off though, and threw it over a stump and escaped. The village becomes weary of her and going near the waterfall. But a woodcutter comes from far away. He works by the waterfall. A woman approached him. She begs him not to tell anyone, and he does not know what the woman is. But one night, he lets it slip to the village during a feast. The next day, he is found strung up in the forest. So, what can we make of our spider? Let's start with shapeshifting. This could be fairly simple though, assuming that she uses her webbing to create the form she takes. She also has a poison which weakens the victim, but it can take days of dosing to have an effect. This sounds like a weak nerve poison which causes flaccid paralysis, but might have other effects. The webs are strong enough to hold back a man. Now, we know how big this form is, 2 shakus. Okay, but what is a shaku? Well, it is a unit of measurement from Asia. It comes up to be about 11.9 inches or 30.3 centimeters, but it has changed over time. During the times of our tales, it would be about 18 centimeters or 7 inches, which puts the spider that the samurai cut at about 14 inches. or only slightly bigger than the largest spider in existence. One option could be that it is one that hasn't reached its full size though, with the hybrid form being the final molt. Spiders go through several molts over their lives due to their exoskeleton being external and could be used during the different phases of the metamorphosis. The form which appears rarest in the stories is also the one that most people think of when you think of the Jorogumo, the woman's torso on a spider's body. How would that work? The first issue is the completely different internal organ layout. First up, the respiratory system. Humans have a more familiar lungs located in the chest, but spiders have book lungs, or trachea in the abdomen. Now, spiders have passive breathing, which works due to their small size and by spending hours doing nothing. Now, I did touch on a lot of this in a video on giant spiders about a year ago, so I'll go over much of the same stuff here. Spiders have hemolymph that flows through the compartments of the body, called an open circulatory system, compared to a human's closed system. Which of these will the Jorogumo have? Well, I'm going to side with the closed system. It is more effective at larger sizes, which would match up with the idea of the Jorogumo being about human-sized. This is also why I'm going with human lungs and heart location. It will put the heart closer to the brain, which reduces resistances to pumping blood a long distance. With my Jorogumo video, I did receive some comments asking about spider crabs and coconut crabs. While yes, these are invertebrates, those are decapods and crustaceans, but not arachnids like spiders. While yes, both are arthropods, but that is the single largest group of animals on the planet. It would be like trying to use a frog's three-chambered heart or a bird's unilateral lung system for humans. Sadly, there are enough differences that it would complicate things, and I didn't want to go over it. This means we'll want a four-chambered heart and lungs. For lungs to work, we'll need a diaphragm and the use of intercostal muscles with ribs for effective breathing. The ribs will also support the shoulder joints for the human-like arms. The ribs also set up connections for the abdomen muscles and our modified hip joints for our 8 spider legs. To get a closed circulatory system, we'll need a way to produce red blood cells, but spiders have an exoskeleton which lacks marrow to produce blood cells, and I think that the Jorogumo trades the exoskeleton for an internal skeleton like humans at some point as part of its metamorphosis. This allows it to grow without undergoing molts. This could also make the shapeshifting easier in theory. Now, there's one additional thing that leads me to think this. In some tales, a samurai stabs Jorogumo through the abdomen with a sword. This would be much more difficult, but not impossible with an exoskeleton. But the internal skeleton seems to match the stories better. What do you think? That leaves the digestive organs. Spiders normally have their stomach in the cephalothorax region, and their intestines in the abdomen. Normally, spiders begin digesting their prey before eating it by injecting compounds into their prey. Well, Jorogumo happens to be poisonous. She can even spit as a defense mechanism. This means we can assume that she does the same thing. Due to having the heart relocated, we might be able to make the abdomen a little smaller, assuming that we don't move the stomach down next to the intestines. Since it is said that her webs also have a weakening effect, we can guess that her venom is coated onto the webbing she ensnares people with. It weakens you, which sounds like a nerve toxin, or it is a poison which is absorbed into the muscles faster than elsewhere in the body and begins digestion. Her preferred food is humans, but she'll need to go after deer, boars, and cattle when she can. That is why she plays the biwa, as a way to draw in humans who hear the music. To add the poison, we'll need poison glands in the mouth of the human-like head. Her immune system protects her from all poisons though. Her webs are also coated in the poison, but they are odd. Not that they are strong enough to hold a human, but they aren't really sticky. There are reports of people pulling them off and throwing them over stumps to tangle it up. This means she doesn't have a strong adhesive to administer to her webs. Probably because due to her size, the wind would make it very easy to get herself tangled in it. What do you think of this setup? Do you think it would work? Oddly enough, there are not a single documentation of a male Jorogumo, all female. It is said that she serves as a warning against uncommitted bonds and the importance of true love. She is noted in having the ability to charm people, and does control other spiders though. So, how do we defeat the Jorogumo? She has one overwhelming weakness. All of her powers and charm fail if you have a true love. Yes, having someone who you truly love romantically, well, you are safe from Jorogumo then. You'll stay away from her and be safe. But what if you aren't in love and a woman meets you? Watch for her webs, the tickle on your skin. Don't get intimate with someone who you've just met. Give a relationship time. Jorogumo does have a few other weaknesses though. On the magical front, fire is powerful against her. It will destroy her webs and burns her flesh. There is no point in using poison, for she is immune to it. Ice can trap her 8 long legs and keep her in place to counter. If her legs can't move, her underbelly is an easy target and a place that she'll struggle to get to. Swords and spears can pierce her flesh, particularly her chest. With her long, spindly legs, I would prefer a longer weapon against her. But a good sword or axe can cut her legs out from under her and leave her trapped on the ground. Most spiders can lose a couple of legs. Due to her size, 2 may be the max though. Focus on one side if you can. If she does have an exoskeleton, a heavy mace or bludgeoning weapon will help squash her. Those long legs can grab and pin you. Be ready for it. She can pick up a weapon in her hands. Be ready for that too. Most fights will occur in close quarters and make using a bow difficult. She does have a few other weaknesses. Diatomite, which is a fossilized algae ground into a powder, and mint leaf oil and lemon water. Both have been used to weaken and repel her. Jorogumo is an ambush fighter. She'll get her webs around you while you are unaware, but oddly enough, they aren't sticky. If caught, you can cut them and get out, or you can tie them around an object. Now, there is the poison on the webs, which will slowly leave you weaker. Having armor will keep it off your skin. Due to her size, you can get by with any armor, but I would prefer plate armor that will protect you from her spitting poison. A shield will help too. She does have a little more magic in her ability to control other spiders, but usually they'll be small and used more for scouting work rather than combat. Still, they could be a handful in numbers. Overall, Jorogumo can be difficult foe to fight. She will lure you in and trap you before the fight begins. If that happens, you've made a mistake. Once the fight begins, you'll have to deal with arachnophobia too. I know I'd be scared of one that big, even if it was half human. You'll have to handle the webs and poison too. If you can do all that, you'll win though, but it won't be easy. and why I'm giving Jorogumo a 6 of 10 for difficulty. Good luck, adventurers. After slaying the Jorogumo, you can get a few things. First up, her poison. Coat your weapons in it. Depending on how it works, you could use it to soften up tough tissue, or in some medical treatments, but probably too dangerous. Webs can be used by tailors in clothing, or fishing nets. They are durable and will last a while. They should survive being soaked in water to clean off the poison, unless you want to keep the poison on. I'd keep gloves on while handling it just to be safe. As for the remains, well, you could eat her, legs being the best part, but I don't know if you would want to. If she does have an exoskeleton, you could use it to make armor, but not as good as steel. More like a very stiff leather, if anything. Alter approached the woman, who smiled at him. Unseen by him, she acted. Coiled beside her was a net, which she threw at the bard. It bound around his legs as she rose up to expose 8 long legs of her own. She laughed at the poor man. Alto clawed about. His hands grabbed leaves, dirt, until, finally, finding the axe, he kicked. Gripping it tightly in his hand, he swung at the webbing. The metal head split the tough threads, but gouged into his legs. Ignoring the pain, he scrambled up and took off with the spider woman right behind him. She reached out, but Alto swung the axe again as her hand touched his shoulder. This time, the blade caught her in the throat, and she stumbled backwards. Hissing, she addressed the wound while her prey escaped. Jorogumo has the potential to be a dangerous foe, but she prefers to win the battle before it begins. If you handle this with care, you can win though. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next week, where we shall look at Medusa, the Gorgon. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.